Donald Trump has pledged to impose substantial tariffs on imports as part of a policy aimed at safeguarding U.S. industries and reducing dependence on foreign supply chains. Advisors to the incoming administration have suggested that tariffs on Chinese goods could reach 45 to 60%, a move that would significantly impact bilateral trade and intensify the ongoing U.S. China economic and strategic rivalry. In response, China has implemented stringent new export controls, with measures that extend beyond its borders. According to a Bloomberg report, Beijing has taken unprecedented steps to restrict the direct export of crucial materials, including metals like gallium and germanium, to the U.S. Additionally, the Chinese government has moved to prevent foreign firms from supplying U.S. companies with Chinese-origin inputs that have both civilian and military uses. These actions represent a significant escalation in China's efforts to counter U.S. sanctions and export controls, potentially reshaping global supply chains and compliance frameworks. In December 2024, China announced a ban on exporting several critical minerals to the U.S., including gallium, germanium, antimony, and superhard materials. These minerals are vital for producing semiconductors, solar panels, and military equipment. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce stated that these restrictions are necessary to protect national security and meet international obligations, including non-proliferation commitments. This move follows the U.S. government's decision to impose stricter export controls on semiconductor manufacturing equipment and software, which expanded the list of Chinese companies subject to such measures. The U.S. justified these controls on national security grounds, aiming to prevent China from acquiring technologies that could enhance its military capabilities. China's restrictions have sparked concerns about the stability of global supply chains for critical minerals. The U.S. Geological Survey reports that China is the source of approximately 60% of the world's germanium and 98% of its gallium, making it a crucial supplier for industries worldwide. The ban has already driven up prices for these minerals, with antimony prices more than doubling to over $225,000 per ton in 2024. For the first time, China's new export controls explicitly target entities outside its borders. Foreign companies that use Chinese materials or components in their products and sell them to the U.S. may now face legal consequences. This approach mirrors the extraterritorial reach often associated with U.S. and European sanctions on restricted commodities and technologies. The targeted items include a variety of materials and technologies critical to U.S. industries, such as gallium and germanium, which are vital for semiconductors, communications equipment, and military hardware. Chinese authorities have also signaled that other dual-use items, particularly those with potential defense applications, will face stricter export controls. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce has emphasized that any individuals or organizations found transferring dual-use Chinese-origin goods to U.S. entities will be held accountable under Chinese law. This suggests that China plans to take a more assertive stance on enforcing these measures, which could deter companies from acting as intermediaries to circumvent direct export bans. Although the new rules do not yet specify enforcement mechanisms, legal experts believe this marks the beginning of stronger Chinese oversight of its global value chains. As a result, international companies are now scrambling to verify the origin of their inputs and secure alternative supply chains to mitigate risks. The era of rerouting Chinese materials through third countries to fulfill U.S. demand may be coming to an end. This is especially concerning for critical industries in the U.S., which has long depended on Chinese sources for vital minerals and components. Gallium and germanium are crucial for electronics, telecommunications, aerospace, and defense sectors. China's export ban on these materials has raised alarms about potential disruptions in these industries, as gallium is used in gallium arsenide semiconductors, vital for high-frequency devices like mobile phones, satellite communications, and radar systems. Additionally, germanium is essential for fiber optic cables, enabling high-speed data transmission and supporting telecommunications and defense applications, including radar systems and night vision goggles. Military technologies, including the use of germanium, play a crucial role in national security. Germanium is essential in infrared optics, vital for thermal imaging systems used in military and defense applications. Its transparency to infrared light enables the detection of heat signatures, making it key for surveillance and targeting systems. China's export control law, enacted in 2020, laid the foundation for recent measures, but experts are uncertain about how aggressively Beijing will enforce its extraterritorial provisions. According to Combs, the immediate goal seems to be preventing Chinese firms from bypassing export controls and deterring intermediary countries from assisting U.S. companies in circumventing these bans. However, the possibility of broader enforcement cannot be dismissed. Some commentators have drawn comparisons between China's newly expanded export controls and long-standing U.S. extraterritorial measures, particularly regarding sensitive technologies. Although Beijing may not have the same enforcement network as the U.S., these measures represent its most direct effort to counter and mirror U.S. export restrictions. The growing economic and political alignment between Russia and China further strengthens Beijing's strategic position amidst ongoing trade tensions, while China and the U.S. remain deeply intertwined economically. The trade war and Washington's increasing scrutiny of Chinese technology have pushed Beijing to seek alternative partners and reduce its reliance on U.S. markets and components. Closer ties with Russia serve several strategic functions. One vulnerability for China in a prolonged trade conflict is its dependence on global supply chains, especially for essential commodities and resources. By aligning more closely with Russia, China can mitigate this risk. Russia is a major exporter of oil, natural gas, metals, timber, and other raw materials crucial to China's manufacturing ecosystem. For example, the Power of Siberia pipeline, inaugurated in late 2019, has strengthened China's long-term energy security by ensuring a stable gas supply. As the U.S. attempts to limit China's influence and restrict critical technology exports, having a reliable political ally like Russia for fundamental inputs reduces pressure on China's industrial base and makes efforts to restrict its economic growth less effective. While the U.S. has sought to curb China's advancement in high-tech sectors through export controls on semiconductors and restrictions on companies like Huawei, Russia can assist China in developing indigenous capabilities. Although Russia's technology sector lags behind the U.S. and certain European nations, it has strengths in defense, aerospace, cybersecurity, and advanced materials. Joint research and development efforts, along with the exchange of technical expertise, can help China reduce its dependence on U.S. inputs over time, thereby diminishing the U.S.'s leverage over China's technological progress. As both China and Russia look to reduce their vulnerabilities to the dominance of the U.S. dollar in global finance, they are exploring ways to deepen financial and trade ties, such as increasing bilateral trade settled in national currencies, using alternative payment systems, or even advancing digital currency cooperation. By doing so, they aim to gradually weaken the U.S. dollar's hegemony. This shift would not only mitigate the immediate impact of U.S. tariffs and sanctions, but also enable China to operate more freely on the global stage, reducing the constant threat of American financial tools and geopolitical influence. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please consider liking and sharing your thoughts or feedback in the comments. This helps us reach a broader audience and makes an even bigger impact. Thank you for watching. Let's continue. Beyond economics, the Sino-Russian partnership offers significant strategic advantages. It provides Russia and China with diplomatic cover and strategic depth, as the U.S. seeks to build coalitions to counter China's economic, technological, and military rise. Moscow's alignment with Beijing complicates Washington's efforts to isolate China. Russia's involvement in institutions like the United Nations Security Council, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and various regional forums serves as a diplomatic counterbalance when the U.S. attempts to isolate China. Russia's support prevents Beijing from being diplomatically cornered, helping maintain China's confidence and stability in the global arena. This broader geopolitical backing is vital for China's continued standing amid trade tensions, growing market alternatives, and infrastructure projects. The China-Russia partnership plays a key role in developing infrastructure that opens new trade routes and reduces dependence on U.S.-dominated maritime lanes. Initiatives such as the Northern Sea Route, supported by Russia, cut shipping times and lower transportation costs for Chinese goods heading to Europe. By expanding pipelines, railways, and communication links between the two countries, China secures stable and diversified trade channels. This infrastructure diversification weakens the impact of U.S. tariffs and supply chain pressures, allowing China to reroute trade and access new markets where Russia can help facilitate entry or provide logistical support. As the U.S. escalates trade or technology restrictions against China, Beijing can coordinate its response with Russia. Both nations have experience managing Western sanctions. Russia has dealt with extensive U.S. and EU sanctions since 2014, while China has developed strategies to withstand U.S. punitive measures. Their shared experience allows for more sophisticated approaches to mitigating economic fallout, countering sanctions, and stabilizing domestic industries. Pooling resources and expertise, China and Russia can better withstand external economic pressures, reducing the effectiveness of U.S. measures. The U.S.-China trade conflict, which began during the Trump administration, marked a significant shift in their economic relationship. The trade war started in 2018 when the U.S. imposed tariffs under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. Citing China's intellectual property violations and unfair trading practices. This triggered a series of retaliatory tariffs from China, targeting U.S. agricultural products. By late 2019, U.S. tariffs covered $550 billion in Chinese imports, and China retaliated with tariffs on $185 billion of U.S. exports. These measures drove up costs for American companies and consumers, while China sought alternative export destinations and focused on domestic consumption. In response to the trade war, the U.S. government provided over $28 billion in aid to farmers, while U.S. consumers and businesses absorbed most of the tariff-related costs. A 2019 estimate by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York suggested that the average American household faced an additional annual expense of $831 due to tariffs. Meanwhile, China shifted its focus to diversifying export markets, compensating for the lost U.S. sales, particularly in machinery and electronics. By January 2020, the U.S. and China signed the Phase 1 trade agreement, where China agreed to purchase an additional $200 billion in U.S. goods and services, and address issues related to intellectual property and forced technology transfers. In return, the U.S. scaled back some tariffs. However, the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted global trade patterns, and by the end of 2021, China had only met 60% of its purchase commitments. Unresolved issues like state-sponsored subsidies and industrial policies persist. China's new export controls, which hold foreign entities liable for selling Chinese-origin goods to the U.S., add a new layer of complexity to global supply chains. While the full impact remains to be seen, this move signals China's intention to use its manufacturing leverage to counter U.S. policies, potentially reshaping international trade dynamics for years. Strengthening ties with Russia gives China a more effective means of managing, or even withstanding, a prolonged trade war with the U.S. By securing a steady flow of critical resources, exploring technology cooperation, diversifying financial mechanisms, and gaining diplomatic support, China reduces vulnerabilities and strengthens its long-term resilience. Though Sino-Russian cooperation won't eliminate all the challenges posed by U.S. trade policies, it provides China with critical tools to blunt the impact of American pressure. Over time, this alliance could reshape the global economic landscape, making it harder for the U.S. to use trade as a unilateral instrument of policy, and ensuring China remains a major player on the world stage. Thank you for watching. If this content resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing to stay connected. Your support means a lot to us. You can watch another video on our channel, now on the screen.